Real quick announcement before we get into this fantastic reef tank is about 1 month from the upload of this video, August 11th and 12th, we're going to be hosting the first ever reef stock in Sydney, Australia. So we're really excited to bring this American style reef aquarium conference to Australia for the first time. We've done it for over 10 years in America and it's really a lot of fun, from coral fraggers to collectors, manufacturers, raffles and speakers. There's going to be so many ways to learn a lot about your reef tank, pick up some goodies and meet some fun folks. So be sure to check out reefstock.show for more information and RSVP to the Facebook event page. So enjoy the video of Evan's tank and I'll see you guys in Sydney. What's up, Reef Builders? Jake Adams here, and I am on the north side of Sydney in Hornsby. At the tank of Evan, what's your last name?
Luo, L-U-O.
Evan Luo, and this tank is an absolute masterpiece. It's a very original tank, a very creative layout of corals, a very interesting setup of equipment. But before we show you that, we're gonna walk around the front and present the tank in all its glory. So this is the fantastic reef display of Evan Luo. And if you're wondering if it looks as good in real life as it does in video, I can promise you that it does. And one thing that really grabs my attention right away is how little rock there is in the bottom third of the aquarium. So Evan's really been aiming to do what he calls a lifted aquascape that he says is inspired from some Asian style reef keeping. Is that right, Evan?
Yeah, sure.
Let's get you in the frame. Let's get you in the frame, present your tank, and so tell us a little bit about your reef tank. What's the size, how long have you had it, and etc.
So I've had this tank for about a year now. It's an in-wall tank. It's a 6 by 2.5 by 2.5 high. It's about 350 gallons, around that. And yeah, as you can see, it's mostly SPS, it's mostly hard corals, and I think once the SPS bug bites you, it's over.
Yeah, you know, it's not just SPS though. You definitely have like a tank dominated by Acropora, right?
Yeah.
Dude, this is, you know, shoulder to shoulder with Sanjay Yoshi's tank that I know you saw earlier this year and a lot of other people have seen, but man, this is pretty much about as good as it gets. And one of the reasons for that is, as I was describing, just the uncompromising conditions for corals, because you have a ton of light on this tank.
Yeah.
Tell us how much light you have on the tank.
So if we can open this up.
Go ahead.
We can do it. So I've got T5 mainly in the middle, it's 8 by 80 watt, and I think I've got 8 Kessels.
So 8 Kessels, just like, it's got a spotlight, and you know, normally people would have like 1 or 2 of these spotlights just to highlight some of their corals, but you have 8 of them?
Yeah, 8 of them.
8 of them just ringed all around the aquarium.
And then to finish it off, we got a Radion in the middle.
And the Radion G4 Pro. And I think we calculated earlier, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1200-ish watts?
1200 watts, about that. But it depends on, you know, how high you're running the map, but yeah, I'd say so as well.
Very cool. And while we're doing the technical details, can you just tell me what pumps you have inside the tank?
I'm running 3 MP40s. I've got a quiet drive over there, I think. I've got 2 old ones. I've got those Asian pumps, those J-Bow ones. I don't know what that is. There's a big one, and there's a smaller one, and I've got an MP10.
And you just got a random MP10.
Yeah. Just to create more random flow.
Because.
Yeah, I think the more little ones you put in there, and you know, you shouldn't run your wave makers, in my opinion, too high. Run them all lower, so then you get more of a mixture of flow.
Very cool. And what are you returning the flow with?
I'm running a Vectra, believe it or not, M1?
M1?
The smaller one, not
Yeah.
the larger one. And it seems to do the job, so...
Very cool. I think
Yeah.
we can let this down now. So how long has this tank been set up?
It's been set up for about a year now, from the origin of putting the tank in to about now. It's been about a year, yeah.
Right, and did you have the aim of doing this lifted aquascape from the beginning?
Yeah, I had the intention right from the start to figure out what I wanted. Like, this is almost exactly where I wanted it to be. I wanted to lift all the corals up so they're as close as you can to the light. And yeah, I did my whole scape initially to make that happen with these ridges and these underpasses that are really out there like that.
Well,
Yeah.
brother, man, like this is so well executed. You know, you just have like three comparatively tiny rocks down on the bottom and just pretty much like nothing but open space underneath. And so, you know, all the abundant water flow that you provide doesn't get impeded anywhere.
It definitely helps.
It
Yeah.
just bounces around, and man, the color of the corals is really, really top notch. And I know a lot of the viewers are going to appreciate the fact that you have balanced color. You have balanced color in your reef tank. It's not totally trippy. It's not completely blued out, but really, really great rendition. And that's got to come from the combination of the LEDs and the T5 lighting.
Yeah, definitely the T5 and LED is where I think looks the best with the shimmer, and then you've got the T5 with the whole coverage, gets the light blanketed across the whole tank.
So Evan, there's no doubt you have a masterpiece reef tank. Before we take a closer look at some of the kind of the standout coral pieces, let's go around the back.
Sure.
You've got a dedicated fish room,
Yep.
and I know people want to see how this works.
Oh yeah.
Let's take a look. Insert funny music here as we round the corner. Okay, so here's a look at the tank edge on, so you can get a feel for just how much technology is happening in this aquarium. And now we'll enter the fish room completely. And now you can hear the hum. You can hear the hum of the reef tank. So give the viewers another look here at the lighting, at the ATI T5 fixture, the high output bulbs. I think those are 5-foot bulbs, and just a battery of castles. All right, so we talked about the lighting, we talked about the water flow. Tell me about your filtration and your dosage and your water changes, because you're a real stickler for all those parameters, aren't you?
Let's see, where to begin?
You're Zeovit, man.
Yeah, we'll go from that side. So
Okay.
obviously it runs into some filter wool that I've got there. I find that helps a lot.
Filter wool, so mechanical filter
Yeah,
for
definitely.
the rest of the world.
I'm running some carbon just hanging off like that.
Yeah, super high tech.
Yep.
GFO?
Then GFO in a reactor.
Cool.
And then I've got I think it's a 250 raw exclusive.
Very nice. You know, it's the first time I've actually seen the titanium intake strainer
Yes.
from them.
Last time I had a pump and all these snail shells got inside.
Oh yeah, super important to protect all your intake strainers, all your pumps from any errant snails and stomatels and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you got the Zeovit reactor over there.
So it's like a cheap Chinese Zeovit reactor with some aquaforest stones in there, with as much as I can put in there.
You
as
don't
I can.
have to be an expert to just make a little
Yeah.
plunger device.
No.
So how many kilos of Zeovit do you think's inside?
I think it's probably 4 kilos.
All right, and how often do you change it?
Depending on how I feel.
Okay, you eyeball it, no problem.
Probably every 2 months, 3 months maybe.
And there's the return Vectra M1 right there. Do you run it at full intensity?
I run it at, I'd say 90%.
90%. And we're just gonna say hi to the peanut gallery here. Is Mika?
Mac.
Mac. Hey Mac, what's going on? He doesn't want to be left out of the video. I like to include the pets. All right, so tell me about these dosing pumps, because you know in the United States we use primarily like a 4-channel or 3-channel all-in-one doser, but in Australia you use these John Lenn individual
Yeah.
pumps, right?
Work pretty well. They're really easy to use. You know, just set the amount you do, and the hour you want it every time to dose, and then just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so I recently set one of these up for my Calcwaster doser that I was telling you about.
Yep.
And here's your super fancy dosing containers.
Oh, super fancy.
Really goes with the tank.
Yep. It's all there. Right now they're all empty because I haven't made any. I need to make some more to dose them all. As you can see, the water buckets are there.
Right on. And so I see that you know, you're dosing calcium, you're dosing buffer, but you're really lackadaisical about those. But then you have like a really crazy regime of dosing all the juices and the goodies from Zeovit and a little bit from Aquaforce. Let me see your calendar. Let's show the people the calendar.
You have to see these Chinese calendars that you get every year from your relatives. So this is a breakdown of what I dose every day.
So do you take notes after you've dosed?
Yes. So
Okay.
I dose something, I write down, but usually after every Wednesday is the same thing.
Okay.
Every Thursday is the same thing. And if I notice something different in the corals, say they're going more brown, I'll hold back on the dose. Or if they're going lighter, I'll increase the dose, just depending on what I feel from my eye that I can see from my tank.
So tell me about your water change regime. What do you use? How much do you change, and how often?
So water changes I change with this. Right now it's disconnected.
Right.
But right now that goes.
Standard 50-gallon drum?
Yeah, it's about that. It was 220 liters. I don't know how much that is in America, but
Just call it 50.
yeah.
And then tell me about the salt you're using.
So I use this natural sea salt that Ultimate Aquacator, an Australian company, they pretty much developed it for me.
So what's really interesting is like, you know, a lot of people think that more is more, and there's a lot of salts going around as enriched and higher levels of this and that, but you didn't like it. Why?
Well, for starters, they had a different line of salt that was, it was called something else, but the alkalinity and the calcium and all the levels were slightly elevated. And so if I'm going to do SPS, it didn't really help that. So I asked the guy, he's called Nick, I said, hey, can you make a salt for me that does a more natural seawater level? And he said, yeah, right ahead. And then, so that's what we get now.
Very good. So is your take at natural seawater level?
I would say so. That's what I'm trying to aim for. That's what I'm trying to aim for.
So I'm like super perplexed because, you know, we were going through all his dosages, all his additives, all his elements, but he can't seem to recall dosing magnesium ever somehow. But there's got to be some magnesium in there. Like, for example, you know, this volume of water was just added to the tank. His love is overflowing from the aquarium, and so this is a new satellite tank that is going to help to, I guess, catch some of the extras in here.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Anything else you want to say about husbandry before we just geek out over some of the animals?
Husbandry, well, there's one thing I always do, and that's try not to put your hand in the tank. That's honestly my first rule, just try to keep everything, let everything do its thing, and try to not move everything out and change everything all the time. If there's any one thing I could say, that's probably that. Yeah.
That's super cool. I usually save it for the end of the video, but I like to get like one pro tip from everybody that I visit, and everybody's got something different to say. And that's something that you and I share, you know, and we discuss like looking at the tank, thinking about what you want to do, and then when you do it, when you put your hand in the tank, then you go for it. Then you make all the changes you want to make, and then you stay out of it for a few weeks. So this is actually kind of a rare sight for Australia. It's a frag rack and frags. And Western reefers in America and Europe will think that I maybe am kidding, but frags are really not that common here in Australia.
Yeah, they're not too common because, you know, obviously we live right next to the reef, and so we're collecting.
What reef is that for some people who don't know
The
necessarily?
Great Barrier Reef. There's also one in WA on the other side, on the west side, in Ingaloo, and there's also one in the Northern Territory. But we're privileged to have a lot of corals in Australia. Right.
What's refreshing about your tank is seeing so many large colonies, you know? And, you know, when I was talking about the uncompromising conditions for corals, you know, it comes to this aquascape that is built to have a fantastic population of corals and what is it, metric buttload of light, like just so much light coming in from every angle. These corals are definitely not hurting for light, and you even have corals on top of corals.
Oh, corals on top of corals. I'm gonna start a new trend.
Look at that one. So there's a frag on top of a coral right there, and I was trying to really bust his balls about using epoxy to epoxy a live coral to a live coral, but he had a really good explanation for that.
Well, you know, the live reef, that's how they work. You know, you see heaps of Placilophoras in the wild, and they all die, and then new corals come and form in. You know, I think it's natural.
I know, but instead of putting the tissue against tissue, you were saying that they can encrust that piece together.
Yeah. So creating a little bit of barrier, because last time I did it, both T-end.
Oh, so you've tried this before?
Yeah, I've tried it before, and they just started fighting, and it didn't.
Yeah. So here's another example of a coral on top of a coral right there, like literally just resting on top of stuff.
They're all got coral plugs that
I'm guessing this is one also.
Yep.
And there, right there, this is the egregious one. I can't even process. It's just like literally a colony set on top of a nice colony. Very, very cool. So you clearly have like way more than too many corals for us to go discuss and to describe around the back. I love that you still have a great selection of euphyllias. You know, it's pretty common here in Australia. You guys have great access to euphyllias. There's a beautiful chalice coral right here that you said you were given. It's kind of a random specimen. Lots of tenuous kicking around. But really the animal back here that I want to focus on is this blue gigantea, a carpet anemone. So our viewers, they might be familiar with carpet anemones, but they might not realize that there's 3 different species, and this is the one with the long tentacles. So tell me about your quest to get a long tentacle carpet anemone, especially a blue one.
Well, for starters, my wife nearly kicked me out of the house to try to get one in the first place when I told her how much it would cost. But yeah, in Australia they're quite rare.
What's the sticker price on one like that?
I've seen them go for about $4,000, maybe.
Australia.
Yeah, Australia.
You're still talking about probably $3,200, $3,300 USD.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean this is a spectacular reef animal. I don't think I've ever seen one in America, but I saw one at Eastwood Aquarium last time I was here, and it really took my breath away. And yours is like, I don't know, 4 times bigger.
Yeah, it's
really freaking blue.
Yeah.
Just really nice. Very cool. Well, let's swing around the front and just take a look at some of the highlight specimens that you have in the tank. So let's start on the right side.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite corals over here?
So this one, I'm not too sure of names, but this blue one here, it's very dear to me because I've grown it out from very small, probably the size of, I don't know, pinky.
I love how you give that one a little extra respect. You don't have any corals on top of it, near it, touching it. It's got its own area.
No corals on coral on that one.
All right. These bommies you have are amazing right here, except for that one that's just like straight up resting on top of a coral.
Yeah. I know you don't like it.
It looks like you put a coral on top of a coral. You got any favorites over here? The selection of pinks and greens, blues, it's just really nice.
I'll tell you what, when I got that green hairy one, it was as hairy as that. And I've never seen something that hairy, so I just had to take it.
It looks like a millie, it just for some reason doesn't have really well-developed axial coralites.
It's weird.
And then this is like a pink shortcake right here. Just really looks like the same shape as a strawberry shortcake, but really ultra pink.
Yeah. I got given that from a tank shutdown. And this person had this coral for a very long time. So, wherever they were collecting before that, 5, 6, 7 years ago, they clearly don't collect there anymore. And so now you're looking at something that the collectors don't go to anymore. So it's definitely something unique. I haven't seen one in Australia.
So this is one of the primary first bommies, and then we're gonna scoot over to the second one. Okay, so now we're moving on to the main central bommy. You've got a nice, beautiful pink table right there, and the whole thing is capped off by some really nice staghorns. So tell us about a couple of the corals you have in this bommy.
So I really like this one, that purple one.
Right.
I think it's called a cerealis, I believe. And that was given to me by a local reefer. And he said, Evan, have a go at this. And it's turned out to be absolutely amazing. It's got really nice purple tips. It's got these weird kind of growth patterns I don't see. That
yeah, what's weird is I don't know how common this is in Australia. This is a really common coral from Fiji, and normally doesn't get as much light as it deserves, and it won't grow that tight, and it won't be that bright. So yeah, that is definitely one of the most attractive specimens or long-term captives I've ever seen. And I really love this guy right here with the tubular branches. Really weird. I think that's a wild artifact, not how the coral grows. Can you tell me about that one?
That was from Tank Shutdown as well, and I have no idea what that is, but my friends always come over and they say, the color doesn't look that great. And I said, look, wait, it'll get better with time. It'll get better with time.
So you are like the coral rescuer, right? You get a lot of corals from tank shutdowns.
Yeah, I'm very, the reefing scene in Sydney, I think, is very nice. And, you go to places and people give you things and people know who you are. And they let you, and we share it around. And it's really great because someone might not be doing so well with the coral and they'll give it to me or I give it to them. And from there, it all goes good.
Very cool. Look at the shagginess on this mildy. That thing is just totally just like, that's as shaggy as they get. Any shaggier and you wouldn't be able to tell what it is anymore. It almost fills in the branches. And then of course you got a beautiful staghorn up there. A really, really nice purple pillow-shaped dude up on the top. Have you had that one in a long time?
Yeah, I've had him for about, I don't remember now, but he was about half that size, and you can probably see from that top section where he's grown all those purple little branchlets. That's all new. As you can see, it's growing into the stag and everything like that. So it's put on quite a bit of weight.
And then you have a few shortcakes here. Like, this is kind of your classic strawberry shortcake here, green with some pink accents. This is a weirdo one that's just kind of pink all over. But this one is like the pinkest strawberry shortcake I've ever seen. That one. That's, if I wanted to frag of something, that's the one I would want to take home. How long have you had that coral?
He was probably one of the first corals I got in this tank. He wasn't there at the start, he was just probably somewhere here, but he kept on falling over. So I've had him probably 9 months, say about that. Yeah.
Very cool. Another staghorn just kind of erupting from the middle. And you can see how some corals are just kind of haphazardly placed on top of each other. And you know what? It works, especially acros. They're not super aggressive with each other. And then here, definitely last but not least, is a really, really, really nice pearl berry style acro. You've had that one for a bit, right?
Yeah, I've had that one for a bit. It didn't come in looking like that. It came in actually looking quite, maybe blue, if you could call it bluey brown maybe. But ever since it's been on that highlight, it's colored up really well. And it's always changing. It's always looking real great. And it's probably one of my favorite corals in the tank.
Very cool. So this tank, is dominated by acros, but there's a really, really nice toxic green hammer coral right there, and a really cool sparkly Ghani. This is one of those, again, like, this is harder to frag, but this is one that I would be longing for. Some assorted zoanthids there on the bottom. And but I really want to bring attention to just like super duper shaggy Duncan right here. Now Duncan is like the quintessential Australian coral, so it's really cool to see that you locals still really appreciate and love this coral. And man, I really don't think I've ever seen one quite as shaggy. So Evan, man, it's been a real treat and an absolute pleasure to see your reef tank. To me, this is the epitome about what reef tanks are about. Growing large, showy corals, and frags is where you start, but for me, this is the culmination of what a reef tank should be. So you've clearly got the touch. Can you tell our viewers, just some of your personal philosophies about how you keep your reef tank, and just some tips that people can carry through after they watch this video?
The way I see reefing, it's like pushing a really heavy ball. It takes a while to get going, but once it's going, it's actually quite easy to maintain that ball. But I guess if you do too many things in one go, or if you change too many parameters, things go a bit funky. So if there's anything I would say is steady as she goes. Steady as she goes, and try to do everything incrementally. Watch the tank, and beyond that, I think putting your hands in the tank, do less of that. Try to make a plan to see what you want to do. Figure all that out and do it all in one go, instead of trying to place the coral here and then not liking it, placing it over there. And so just leave it be and let it do its thing as a natural reef should.
Very cool. Well, I'm in Australia for a little while, but if I see any other home display reef tanks, they're gonna have some really big shoes to fill. So I can't thank you enough for having me over, mate.
No problems, mate.
So if you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you like videos like this, if you want to learn more about reefing and see more inspiring reef aquariums like Evan Lua's reef tank, please go ahead and subscribe. Evan is a watcher, is a subscriber to the channel, and so he will be happy to answer your questions in the comments down below. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and until next time, I will catch you on the next video.